So now when you're presenting all of this to law enforcement, you can say, here was the first event. Here was chronologically all the other events that happened. And by the way, here's how we detected them and their additional events through license plate recognition. Here's all of the video evidence. And all of that is packaged up inside of Auror in one single investigation that you can just add law enforcement in. So you're saving law enforcement time.
You're listening to the Retail Crime Intelligence Podcast by Auror, where we share actionable insights to help you reduce crime and violence in your stores.
Hello, everyone. I'm Bobby Haskins, and you're listening to the Retail Crime Intelligence Podcast. A few weeks ago, I had the opportunity to join Amber Bradley, and we discussed everything that is license plate recognition. And on this episode, you're going to hear a bit around how license plate recognition and the intelligence that Auror is gathering from our retail crime intelligence platform makes a difference for our retail partners and for the industry when it comes to keeping their stores safe and reducing loss in their stores.
What's up, everybody? It's Amber Bradley, TalkLP Podcast time. So stoked you have joined us with the Mr. Bobby Haskins, Vice President of Retail Partnerships at Auror. What's up, dude?
Nothing much. Living the dream. How are you? Hey, I just want to say, we've talked about doing this for a while, and now that we're here, I'm pumped. So thanks for having me.
Good. That's how you should be. That's how everyone is out there listening. But we're here today to talk a little bit. So two things, I think. One is how you say your company's name, which is Auror, not Auror. I think we should clear that up. Just saying.
I agree. It's Auror, and for those that are out there wondering where the name came from, it's a little bit of Harry Potter reference there. So if you're familiar with Harry Potter, that's where the name comes from, but it's not Aurora. It is not RRR. I hear every now and then, like
it's
people's mouth.
Why is
dumb.
it hard?
They try. I don't know. It's Auror.
It's Auror. Once you know. What's that hashtag? If you know, you know. That's where we're at. That's what we're going to do on this podcast. That's number one. So we got that out of the way. Number two is a little known fact that you guys...
Perfect. We're 2 minutes in and we checked a box.
I know. It's the most efficient podcast ever. Number two is that Auror provides license plate recognition technology, which is pretty much all the rage I'm hearing these days. So it has a million different applications. It's so easy. Like, we're going to dive into it. But first, let's back up to talk a little bit about, and I know you being a former practitioner, so you've sat in these guys' seats of where they are, what they deal with every day, which is really cool that Auror invested in you and grabbed you away from Target to kind of get in there and help them meet the needs of retailers. But having that perspective, talk a little bit about what's going on in this crazy world. Like, what are retailers seeing, facing, have faced to where Auror's like, look, we need to launch this license plate recognition technology, LPR for short. Give us some perspective.
Yeah, I think perspective from, what I've experienced, having worked at, Target for 10 years, been at Auror for 5, and what I'm hearing from, the partners that we work with and the customers that we have at Auror is post-pandemic, things have just escalated, right? It's not only is shrink up, shoplifting is skyrocketing, organized retail crime is more prevalent than we've ever seen. And I think the biggest thing is it's the violence side of this that is really scary when you look at what's happening. So we're no longer talking about, making apprehensions and maybe someone takes a swing at that individual. We're now talking about, people are losing their lives that are in the asset protection space or in the store operation space. And that's the scary thing. That's really kind of what drove us to push more around license plate recognition. And Amber, just like when I look at the data from our customers here in North America, we've actually seen a 257% increase in safety/violent incidents in our platform since 2021. So it's a dramatic change. And I think that's the big thing for us is the violence piece. We need to do more and be more proactive, and LPR helps with that.
You would think that after the pandemic, violence and stuff would go down because everyone's just so happy not to be like in lockdown. But it's like total opposite. It's almost like it got just everybody just a little closer to crazy.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, not to downplay, it's a very serious situation. And I think, retailers are seeing exactly what you're stating. And it's like a matter of life and death when you're like, okay, it's just loss prevention. Like, what's going on? It's just a cart full of Tide. Like, good grief. So some retailers are like, look, it's not worth it. This crime wave, where these stores are, we're closing them down. So we're seeing that. Like, what's changed from what you guys see?
Yeah, I mean, pretty much most retailers have taken that approach, right? Gone hands off, right? And
Yeah.
they're moving more into now that we like to call it at Auror, like be the best witness phase. So if you see something, say something. Sorry, I'm gonna be the TSA cliche there, but it rings true, right? If I'm a store manager, like do not approach, watch, observe, document. And get as much of that intelligence that you're seeing and observing into the hands of your loss prevention, asset protection team so that they can aggregate, connect the dots, and hopefully, take care of that problem outside of the store, right? And figure out who that group is working with, where are they going, and try to get the trained professionals in the right spot to do something about it. That's definitely been a huge shift from the days of let's apprehend our way out of the problem. That's no longer what we're looking at.
Yeah, because you're risking the safety of your personnel. I mean, especially you think about, if you're just focused on that one incident, not being the best witness that you guys say, like, then all you're going to get is that product back, that one thing that these people are stealing versus the whole web of why the person's even stealing to begin with.
Yep. And that intelligence is so critical. And that's one of the main reasons why I moved from Target to Auror was how do we take a new approach around the intelligence that store teams, store operations, asset protection folks are gathering? Because that intelligence matters. A lot of times it's been the language of loss prevention, right? The language of loss prevention has been, how do you describe an individual? What are they stealing? What unique tattoos, piercings, clothing do they have? What are their behaviors? But we've never had a system that makes sense of all of that. And I can actually take that data and connect it to other events at other retailers and make that case for the retailers versus the retailer spending weeks, months, years building a case. And that, at Auror, that's something that when we work with new partners that I'm really excited about to see, because that light bulb goes on and they're like, this intelligence leads to bigger cases, leads to us closing more cases, and leads to our people being safer.
Yeah, which is really, I think, all the focus right now, especially with the rise in crime and everything you just described. But so that leads us to the perfect segue to really about the LPR technology that you guys have introduced, your big announcement. Like, let's talk about the tech.
Yeah. So you're gonna make me go full on geek here then,
yeah,
right?
Geek out. I want to hear it.
Yeah, so we made the announcement around LPR, and we've actually been doing it for quite a few years, almost 7 years in Australia and New Zealand for some of our partners down there. But we did it here in the US just to make sure that everyone's aware of it. And if you look at the tech, what the tech is, Amber, is it's not crazy. It's not a massive integration. It's an integration with an Axis camera or a Hanwha camera, for those two examples, that have the capability of running license plate recognition on the edge. And so they're scanning every plate that comes into that store or that location, and they're sending those data points, those plates, back to Auror. And we retain all of that on the Auror side. And then what we're able to do with that is we're able to actually create hot lists for the retailers. So we talked about all that awesome intelligence that retailers are collecting into the platform already. So that's events that involve people that are violent offenders. Inside of Auror, those retailers can create a rule that says if this event is over this dollar, includes a violent person, and has a plate on it, that vehicle is automatically enrolled in the vehicle of interest list inside of Auror. So we're saving retailers thousands of hours creating that hot list. It's automated. And so when that access camera is sending us that license plate, it pings against that hot list and we push a notification right away to that store manager saying this vehicle has come into your parking lot and this vehicle has been used by these 4 people and they've all been violent. So be on the lookout. So it moves away from just a notification around a vehicle coming to the parking lot and enriching it with intelligence. And that's really important when we go back to the life safety conversation that we started with is I need to know who is potentially using that car and who and what they've done before so I can make an informed decision. And in those situations, minutes matter. So kept the tech high level there. Hopefully that answers the question on what we're doing in the LPR space.
No, it does for sure. And, you think about all the time in the investigation process of executives scrolling back through or their teams even scrolling back through, matching timestamp to when did they come in and, like the whole CSI part of it, which is kind of sexy, but dry and takes a ton of time. And I mean, with everything going on, I don't think there's any executive out there that's like, oh, I've got plenty of staff to do all of this all the time. Right. So that's really interesting. And, obviously with the life safety components of it, it's almost like set it and forget it. Not set it and forget it, like they're forgetting it, but that easy where you're setting a rule and then it's automatically going to alert. And I guess I'm assuming you can set up who you want it to alert. Like if you have loss prevention staff at that location, they're alerted when the vehicle comes into the lot or store management or what?
Yeah, it's all configurable. So if you don't want that alert to go to the store user, you can send it to the asset protection user in that store, or you can send it to, your security operations centers, or you can send it to all of the above. And so that's all configurable. I think the other piece there too, Amber, that's really important is, the generation that's running stores and in the stores have grown up with iPhones in their hands since, their parents gave it to them at 9 or 10 years old. And they're used to that experience, that user experience, right? Like that we're used to with Facebook, social media, TikTok. With this integration, this license plate recognition integration, those store managers don't have to go to another tool to get an alert. It's in the Auror app, which they're already used to using. They've already entered in, hundreds of events into the app and they're getting a push notification. So it creates that single pane of glass versus, okay, now I have to go from this one app to this next app to the third app to just do my daily workflow. So it's really helping that user experience, which gets buy-in. And that generation wants that seamless experience and they do more when they have it.
So curious. I mean, it obviously seems like a no-brainer, right? It's like, okay, yes, let's do this. It would be crazy efficient, especially if I understand this right, where you guys are holding that information. Auror is. So it's not even like the retailer is putting at risk, like, oh, why are you taking all these plates and you're, these privacy attorneys or whatever they are. Like, I guess that's the question is why isn't everyone using it? Is it these, myths of oh, it's privacy laws and all that stuff where we've often heard sometimes when it comes to recognition software like this, that the inside counsel doesn't always know what they're talking about. Like, why isn't everyone using it?
I think, LPR has been used a lot in, the government space, law enforcement, federal tolls. It's out there. It's just recently come into the retail space. So I think just like with any new technology, as you said, there's misunderstanding, of what the technology is and what the laws are out there. So that's always a challenge. But if you look at, we actually have created a white paper, and we're more than happy to share it with anyone on the states that you can or cannot do license plate recognition in from a retail perspective. So we took a look at it. We help with the privacy conversations. I think the other piece of, why it's not as adopted yet is really just, I think we're trying to understand the use cases in the industry. So great to get an alert, but what do I do with that alert? Who actions that alert? Where does that go from there? So there's a lot of question marks around that. And then I think on the last piece on the privacy side of it, yeah, we take those plates and we retain those plates, but we actually have privacy by design built into it. So those plates inside of Auror only stay for 60 days. And that seems to be industry standard when it comes to license plate recognition. So we've thought a lot about that. The rules that a retailer uses inside of Aura helps with privacy. Because now I don't know why a vehicle gets enrolled in a vehicle of interest list. So I don't have the ability to enroll my ex-girlfriend or another situation like that, right? And so that helps with privacy. So we've tried to think a lot about it to get over those hurdles, but it's just going to take time. It really will take time. We see this with every new technology that's adopted in the industry. There's early adopters. They want to see how those early adopters are doing, and then it starts catching on and gets to more retailers.
Yeah, I don't think this community is like the bleeding edge folks, right? They want to be on the cutting edge, but bleeding edge, not so much, right? Because that's when let people try it out first, which is cool because you guys, it's not like this is new technology. You just code it in your back office and now you're like ready to deploy it. I mean, from what I hear, you just said it, that it's been in Australia and New Zealand for years. It's not like it's brand new.
Yeah, we've got thousands and thousands of cameras in those two countries that retailers have deployed. So, and we're, scanning, hundreds of millions of plates every single month through that. And then the deployments here in the US are growing every single day. And we're quickly going to be well over, I would say probably close to 2 billion scans, license plate scans a month with the deployments that we have coming on board here in the US. So we've been doing it for a while. The other piece is our CEO is a former privacy attorney, Amber. So everything we do has to run by him, and we want to make sure that we're doing it right. And you're spot on with this industry. We're not early adopters, but I think that's a really good thing. Yeah. Because if we do something wrong, that means we can't do what we do day in and day out to protect, our people, our assets, our profits. And I think that's really important to do things the right way the first time. So it's good to have a little hesitation with some of this new technology.
Yeah, for sure. So knowing you guys aren't new kids on the block, you do have competitors out there. So giving you a moment to kind of just differentiate, right? Because I think that's important. A lot of people want cut to the chase, like, okay, great. I know Aura is really good at all these other things. Like, what differentiates them from other LPRs out there? Because there are.
Yeah, I think I'll start number one with that vehicle of interest list automation. So that's a huge time savings. And it's all done in that single app. So just to give some real world examples of why that is important for retailers. We had one retailer here in the US that they were using another license plate recognition system for 6 months. They had only enrolled 25 vehicles into their vehicle of interest list. And it took them all of that time to do that because that's painful. It takes a lot of effort to go between their case management system, their LPR system, connect those dots and enroll. On day one, when they flipped over to Aura, they actually enrolled 2,000 vehicles in their vehicle of interest list because of those vehicle of interest rules. They're now, they've quadrupled that in just as much time. So I think I tell that story because I think that's really important from us being different to other LPR providers out there. Retailers inside of Aura have rich intelligence. They can automate their vehicle of interest list. The second thing that I would say is different is connecting that vehicle detection with the people that have used that vehicle before and knowing that they're violent. Other LPR providers, you're just going to get an alert that this vehicle came into the parking lot. You're going to have to go do research to see who might have used that, if you even have that data. With Aura, you get it, boom, right on that mobile app. You see clear pictures of those people that have been involved in other events. You see a big red tag if they've been violent or aggressive. So it really is intelligent license plate recognition is what I'm starting to call it. I don't know if my marketing team is going to like that or not, but that's kind of the two big difference. Yeah, you're a marketer, so did I get like a mini thumbs up? Okay,
yeah,
cool.
I'm gonna give a full thumbs up.
Well, I should be done. I got a thumbs up from Amber Bradley today on the TalkLP
Podcast. There you go. Intelligent
LPR.
So yeah, it's interesting because, everybody talks about the challenges with law enforcement these days, meaning it's just, they're understaffed, they're overwhelmed, increasing crime. I mean, you've got all of these things that they're dealing with, that it's more important for the retailers to actually have a packaged up case or cases or, meeting a certain financial limit that they need to get attention. Like, how does this really help that in the interaction with law enforcement, turning this information into actionable things that they can take to their law enforcement contact and go, I told you this has been happening, but here's all of the info.
Yeah. I might, go end to end on this, right? And so if we look at just Auror and the retail crime intelligence platform, inside of that platform, you're entering in events. We're using machine learning to help you connect the dots on the most prolific people. So our retailers know the 10% of people that are responsible for 62% of their loss. Some retailers, that number is as high as 94%. So just in Auror alone, we've helped make that giant haystack of data smaller so you can find the needles. And the needles are those groups that you need to work with law enforcement on. So you know who these people are. Now let's layer in license plate recognition. So you now know where those people are going. You're getting alerts every time they're in a new store or they've pulled into a new parking lot. That puts you into a position to build a better case. So now when you're presenting all of this to law enforcement, you can say, here was the first event. Here was chronologically all the other events that happened. And by the way, here's how we detected them and their additional events through license plate recognition. Here's all of the video evidence. And all of that is packaged up inside of Auror in one single investigation that you can just add law enforcement in. So you're saving law enforcement time. I add them right into the Auror platform. They see our investigation. They press download all. They have every piece of evidence that we've built on this investigation. And I've just saved them hours, days, months. So it's all about how do you make it easy for them where they have a slam dunk case that now they're willing to go and advocate for. And so my end-to-end answer there, a little bit long-winded, like usual with me, but it's about making the most out of that intelligence you have coming into the platform, being proactive with LPR, and then save those police officers time.
Yeah, I mean, that's huge. And it's like, if you already have the context in a well-established relationship, you don't even have to go there with the bow and the package and the file folders. It's like, oh, all electronic these days. You kids these days.
us kids in those iPhones, right? So
yeah.
But it's spot on. We gotta save law enforcement time. And I'm excited to see it. Last I looked, we have 17,000 law enforcement officers already in the Auror platform. So those are 17,000 officers that are there, ready, willing to collaborate, to look at your investigations. So
I'm digging into the questions of still, why doesn't everyone use it? We're still in that because it all seems like too good to be true, kind of game changer things going on. So is it hard to use? Like, what's happening? Like, I'm looking under the hood to make sure that you're not all like Bobby Sunshine Land, right? Which I can appreciate. But walk us through, like, what does it look like when retailers are using it in their stores?
Yeah, so I think probably the hardest thing is the deployment side of this, right? Like, I've got to procure cameras. Most of the time, these retailers already have these cameras approved by IT, but I have to go install them, right? And where do they get installed? How do they get installed? And so there's different integrators out there that are helping in this space. That's probably the hardest, I think the biggest pain point or hurdle to getting it out there. Once it's in, if I'm a store manager, it's as simple as, I don't know how VOIs are created. I just know that I'm reporting the events and the incidents that I'm seeing. And I know what my action needs to be when I get an alert, when I get a VOI alert. So I know that I need to look at that alert.
Yeah.
Yep. Vehicle of interest. Yep. So that's really, what it's looking like for them at the end users. It's different for every individual in the organization, right? If I'm in a SOC, a security operations center, they're going to have a little bit different view inside of Auror. They're going to be able to search those 60 days worth of plates. So maybe they don't have a vehicle of interest, but they have a plate they want to do research on. They can go and research and see where that plate has been detected, even though it hasn't alerted because it's not on the hot list. So it's different, and we configure that based on all those different roles. But we've really tried to make sure the platform is easy to use for everyone. We have a NPS score in the US right now of plus 72. And some people are probably like, what's NPS, right? Net Promoter Score. What that means is I'm asking individuals, do you like the platform that you're using, and do you think it helps you? And would you refer it to a friend? And 9 times out of 10, they're saying yes. And that's where we get our NPS score. So that's how we know that it's easy to use, it's user friendly. So it's not a huge lift. And I know you're thinking you're just, spitting rainbows and puking sunshine, but I think we've tried to make it easy. And case management doesn't need to be complex. It can be simple, and it needs to be simple and intuitive. And that's what we've tried to do with the platform and with LPR.
So good answer to that one for sure, which leads me to the next, which is the hardcore one, which is the moolah, right? I mean, is it expensive? Or people like, okay, all of that sounds wonderful. Yes, it is a game changer, but it costs $1 bazillion.
No, if you look at it, and if you look at some of the other, LPR that's out there, this approach is very reasonable, and most of the time is, quite a few million cheaper than some of the other options out there. So a great example of that is I can buy cameras. I'm already buying cameras as a retailer. Now I'm just buying a new kind of camera, but that's a capital expense. So that camera I can then take, and there's financial benefits of it over the years of its life, but it's also a lot cheaper than paying $2,500 or $5,000 a month for leasing a different camera or leveraging another platform. So we've really tried to think through, there's a very minimal service fee for you to send that data to Aura, and you just buy those cameras, and you're already used to buying those cameras. And a lot of times they have a really good price on those cameras. So it helps with the capital side of it. So it's not all OpEx, and it's a good mix of capital, CapEx on that side of the financial P&L. So
yeah, that's really big. I think you mentioned Axis and Hanwha. So obviously you have lots of partners out there, which will help you. So talk a little bit about, success stories, right? At this point, based on the numbers you've supplied, you have a number of retailers in the US, utilizing this technology. Like what's some success stories that you've heard? I mean, I know of some because we've helped out in a little like rollout stuff going on with one of your clients on the training side, which they're doing phenomenally well, but other success stories that you can share.
Yeah. By the way, that training rollout plan that we collaborated on was awesome. It was like, you just talk about a seamless onboarding of that. It was fun to watch. So let's pat ourselves on the back, because I think we did well.
Got that over with. That was our third check mark, maybe.
There, I'm going rogue again. I think back to your question, I'll tell a story about one deployment, and it's really more of a safety related story. And it's sad that we have to talk about this, but this is the days that we live in. So this retailer, they weren't even fully deployed. They were just in a pilot in about five different locations when this happened. They had a vehicle come into the parking lot. The first event, this individual approached a female cashier and made a few lewd comments to that female cashier. Got reported into Aura, and because it was, because of the comments that were made, they flagged that, and that vehicle got automatically enrolled in the vehicle of interest list. That individual over the next 2 weeks came back 27 times to that same parking lot. And 27 times that retailer got a notification when that vehicle came into the parking lot. They were able to build a plan after the first couple, a life safety plan to protect those cashiers and their teams that were at that store, to make sure that they were walking out in pairs. There was no opportunity for bad to happen. They did a bunch of other investigation. Turns out that individual was a registered sex offender, and they worked with local law enforcement, had that individual trespassed from all of their property, and they're actually working on additional charges because of some of the other stuff that individual had threatened at other locations. So it's just a sad example of how LPR can help you put solid plans in place and be proactive with these incidents. Who knows what would have happened without that intelligence? It's a good story to tell, I think, on how this makes an impact.
Yeah, because we talked about the investigation time, decreased time, right, for your teams, all of that. But, the obvious point to your story is it keeps your employees safer. and your customers safer because you know what's going on and you have and in these situations, sometimes, like you said earlier, like seconds count, like it's that important. So yes, game changer for sure. I appreciate you stopping in TalkLP Hot Seat, but we can't leave until we should put the white paper that you mentioned in the show notes, but also how do people find out more about this technology?
Yeah, I mean, reach out to us, check out our website, aura.co. We're also going to be at NRF Big Show. I know you're going to be there as well, but we're at Big Show. So we've got a booth at Big Show this year, booth 1041. And love to have, and all we're doing is LPR demos during the Big Show. So cool. Swing by, take a look, and actually, touch and feel and see how this works. But yeah, that's really, and I think everyone, hopefully most people know me. Hit me up on LinkedIn, email address, cell phone. More than happy to talk through how we're helping. So
yeah, I think you'd be happy to buy somebody a cocktail or two. I don't know. Just saying. Just going off past experience.
I've never shied away from a cocktail. Yes. So.
Well, we love Aura at TalkLP. You guys are incredible sponsors of us, which we appreciate. And yeah, hit Bobby up to meet at the Big Show or any other time. He travels all over the place. Even if you're in New Zealand, he might be there at the time. You never know. But thank you so much, Bobby from Aura, for sitting down and explaining this important technology. We will have the website and everything else in the show notes for you guys to click on over and find out some more information. Thanks so much, dude.
Awesome. Thanks, Amber. I appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to the Retail Crime Intelligence Podcast by Aura. Don't forget to follow and subscribe on your favorite podcast app.